Oh, oh, hey, yeah, you caught me reading. Anyway, so yeah, what's up, guys? Onepeg here. Thought I'd make you guys another video that has to do with some more little things in Tarkov that I have found along the way, and that you guys have now started contributing to. So, thank you, guys. So yeah, if you guys find some cool and interesting things, or you have something to add to the conversation, please, hit me up. I love making these videos. They've been a lot of fun for me, and I would love to keep making them with new and cool little things that you guys find, cheeky little spots, interesting weapon mechanic stuff, just anything that you think is cool and not known by a whole lot of people. So, but no weird like exploity bugs or hacky stuff or meshing or any of that. Like we're not exploits, like cool stuff. Okay, all right. So in this video, we're going to talk about some more like fun little things that you can do with reload mechanics. Talk about hotkeys and some interesting stuff that happens with scopes when you have secondary optics and how that can throw off your aim. Stuff to look out for. So hope you guys dig this one too. And yeah, thanks. Hey everybody, my name is Onepeg, and this is Little Things Episode 4. Once people start growing accustomed to the mechanics of Tarkov, it's natural to start looking into hotkey customizations and button modifications. One of the most common things that people will look at doing is changing, like, the grenade throw, for example, from G to a double tapping of G, so they don't accidentally throw a grenade while they reach for the F key to interact with something. But there is something interesting in Tarkov specifically related to the double tapping of a hotkey, and that is this slider found in the options. This double-click timeout slider is an option that provides an amount of delay where you wait for a keybind that has a double-click associated with it. The most common double-tap option is that of the combat reload, which I mentioned in my last video, which, by the way, you totally should go and check it out. It's completely worth it. I swear, trust me. Whereby, when you double-tap the R key, it does a faster reload where the mag is dropped on the ground. But for every keybind you have which has a double tap option, this setting is reflective of a short wait to see if you're going to double tap that key or not. To illustrate this, I've moved the slider from 0.3 or 300 milliseconds to 1 or 1 second. This means that my window of opportunity, if I tap R, and tap R a second time within that second or so of a key press, it will do the combat reload. This also means that if I press R once, the game waits for the second or so of delay that I've now set before that reload action commences, because it's waiting to see if I hit the R key a second time. If I reduce this slider back down to 0.3 again and hit R once, you can see that the reload occurs much more quickly now. But at this minimum setting of 0.3, it's still waiting about 300 ms for me to potentially do something before enacting that reload, which means I have a 300 millisecond delay. So, if you want to min-max this a little bit, the Chad move is to rebind this double tap of R for a combat reload to something different. In my case, I changed it to Shift R. In doing so, it will speed up your normal reload by 300 milliseconds versus having your normal reload variant take longer due to the double key binding. This also works for any other keybinds that have a double tap as an option, so you may want to look into modifying your keybinds if something like this applies to you. In my last video, I outlined how you can optionally choose which magazine you'd like to reload with by holding R and using the scroll wheel to select your desired mag. On certain weapons that allow for top loading, like the SKS, Remington 700, and Mosin, you're also given yet another third option. In this scenario, I'm using an SKS with an external 20-round magazine, as well as a secondary magazine in my rig and some loose rounds in my pockets. If you hit R normally, you swap to the second mag that's in your rig. But if you notice when I hold R and scroll the mouse wheel, the loose rounds, in this case, show up in this pop-up menu as a selectable option. This is because the SKS allows for top loading. If, doing this, I were to select the loose rounds, my PMC will begin to reload the weapon from the top and inserting it through the top into the magazine. This can potentially be useful for instances where you only expel a few rounds at a time and want to keep the rifle full without completely swapping mags and then refilling them like you would do with other weapon systems. When aiming down sights, there is a number that appears in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. This number is a 0-point reference of the optic that you are using, which, in extremely basic terms, means that the center of your reticle is set to that range in, let's say, meters. Most red dots are zeroed at 25 yards by default. Most scopes are zeroed at 50 meters. But this is something that can be modified on the fly during a raid. While aiming down the sights, press page up to increase your weapon zeroing distance. On scopes, this is commonly done in 50-meter increments, and red dots by 25-meter increments. Press page down to reduce the zeroing distance. The minimums on each of these are 25 meters for red dots and 50 meters again for scopes. This should help you be able to range your targets more effectively, especially if you're using slower traveling ammunition like the rounds for the VSS and AS-Val or M62 ammo for 308 rifles, etc. In my last video, we also talked about field of view and how it can affect weapon zeroing and representative visual distance to a target. There is also another interesting aspect to weapon zeroing that I want to share with you, and this applies only to weapons where you're using a magnifying optic with another unmagnified optic as a secondary, like this MDR 308, which is utilizing a set of 30mm JP rings topped by a delta point and containing an EOTech Voodoo. But please keep in mind that any combination of magnifying and non-magnifying optics that you end up using will end up having this same type of mechanic. And I will show you why. In this example, and I'm going to exaggerate this a bit, if you start with a scope zeroed at, say, 300 meters, and a secondary sight that's zeroed at 25 meters, when you switch between them, it modifies the scope's zeroing. Here's how. Notice that this first set of shots, being fired with a zeroing of 300 meters, is a little bit high. If we aim with the delta point and then switch back to the 300 meter zeroed scope, notice in the lower right-hand corner that the number did not change from the initial 25. This slight bug means that our scope has now been re-zeroed at the same distance as the delta point. In this case, again, 25 meters. So, the shots that follow subsequently from this are significantly lower. The zeroing stays at 25 meters because it's based on the first sight that you aim with. So, if you end up having separate zeroing, for now, either make sure that your zeroing on each is set to the same distance, or end your aim, control right-click to switch to the other optic, and then aim again so that you have the correct zeroing that you want when you look down the sights. The second option that you have in this case would be to click page up and page down, or page down, page up, either one, in rapid succession so that it resets the zeroing by hitting hotkeys to modify where you're supposed to be. Now, obviously, my hope isn't that in this case, BSG plans on fixing this, and I'm sure that it's on their list of to-do items. But for now, if this is you and tends to be how you play the game, just keep this in the back of your mind in case it feels like suddenly your shots are dropping a lot sooner than they normally would have. Lastly, I want to highlight a basic but nice quality of life item in the game that can help new and old players alike save time. Back when I first started playing, all of the inventory actions more or less had to be done with drop-down menus, where you'd right-click the item to see its options and then select the option that you were looking for. Things like if you wanted to check the number of rounds left in a magazine, or folding a weapon, or examining an item that had to be done, all of this had to be done through these menus, which became tedious and ended up taking a considerable amount of time. For all of these actions I've mentioned, instead of using these menus, try clicking your middle mouse button. You can examine items faster, check magazine fullness, and with the addition of the latest round of patches, fold the stock of a weapon as long as the weapon allows for it. Thank you guys again for taking the time to lend me your eyeballs. May you one-tap Glukar and all his minions. May you mail slot kill it with a PM pistol. And may you find 3 Ledex at the exact same time on your next labs raid.
Buckshot.
Thanks.
Thank you, Buckshot Jesus.